Magnificent. Oh, so relieved. Yeah, we were never going to hide too well there. Why did we have so much trouble? Why have you had so much trouble getting signal here, mate? Got it on my phone, no problem. Bit sus indeed. Well, the snails love him. A couple of little snails, actually. Oh. Okay, are we all here? Welcome back, Solar Squad, to Mission Control. Mission 8. What a ride it was. You obviously weren't supposed to see that video yet, but I hit the wrong button in my streaming software. But we are going to talk about what happened. So, I got to put this pointy thing down. Very dangerous. Hey there, K-Boku. Good to be here with you all for today's news. So what happened last night? Started off strong. We got running. We were just pegging along. I was not getting off that throttle for man, nor beast, nor unfriendly bear. We were making great progress. We put down 800 meters like it was nothing. Got on the gravel as the night wore on. Obviously, we had to take some breaks, had to be a little bit more careful. Things always get tougher the further you get out of town. But fundamentally, we really did get to the end of the trail, the decision point, where you have two bridges to choose from. We got there with no real issues, nothing major, other than someone cheered some bits and we had a temporarily cut out. But nothing too major at all. So then we carried on, and this time we decided to take a new route out of town. We went to the left, took a different bridge, a much longer route, intending to hit about 3 kilometers total before the mission was done. It was all looking good until it wasn't. We honestly had a dirt road. There was a facility coming up on the right-hand side. We decided to give it a wide berth. Started plodding along in the grass instead of on the dirt road itself, but shouldn't have been any big hassle. Then we had an issue. We had the videos start dropping out. Bandwidth was getting limited, and SOLARBOI was really struggling to send us what we needed to drive the robot. So much so that the video stream was taking all the available bandwidth. We couldn't even get commands through to cut the video stream to make alterations. That was difficult. Took us about 5, maybe even 10 minutes to get back on a stable footing. Did a bit of live recoding of the video system, and with our GT dual setup, we were able to code a low bandwidth video solution with no audio and attempt to push forward. Bitgate is indeed the problem. So we had our low bandwidth video come up, and I was so hyped because this had gotten us out of trouble before. I honestly believed we had the capability to get through these struggles. The video came back online. We had our headlights on. We were going to push forward. And we did. And we suddenly were making great progress. We couldn't hear anything. And it's always difficult driving when you don't have the audio coming through. But the low bitrate video was working great. It was a little blocky, but we could make progress. And we did for a full 30 seconds, covering about 20 meters. Then everything ground to a halt. Incidentally, just as the same user cheered some bits. The coincidence was somewhat terrifying, and I did worry whether or not the somehow some code running somewhere was having some effect, but I believe I've ruled that out. There should be virtually no way for things happening on stream like cheers and donations to affect the robot unless we let them. So I investigated. I investigated, but anyway, as you all saw in the video last night, we basically tried for 20 minutes to get back in touch with the robot, and nothing happened. So if we look through the robot's logs, let me see if I can bring this up here. As you saw in the video I played at the start of the stream today, we were able to find the robot where we left it, thank goodness. And SOLARBOI was there waiting. He hadn't talked to us all day. He hadn't said a peep since he shut off at midnight or 2 minutes before. Hadn't said a thing. So that's why I headed out there, as you saw in that video earlier, to go and rescue him. I was praying right up until I turned the corner, praying that I was actually going to find him there, that he hadn't been stolen or, you know, maybe relocated or moved, because we parked right in front of someone's house. So I was very glad to see him and immediately started diagnosis. And the problem I have with diagnosing issues with SOLARBOI is the Raspberry Pi doesn't have a real-time clock on board. And so it only has accurate time when it connects to the internet. If it boots up and it doesn't get an internet signal, it doesn't have an accurate time base for the logs. So I started trawling through the logs once I recovered the robot. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how SOLARBOI spent the day, but for now we'll focus on the what actually happened on an electronic level. I got the robot home, started looking through the logs. Now at 11, it would have been 11:55 and 58 seconds, something basically right about when you saw on the stream when we cut out. We have a log entry here. USB disconnect, device number 4. That is our Sierra USB modem. And you can see all down the page there. That's the various parts of the modem, basically Linux saying it's not there anymore. Obviously, this isn't supposed to happen. I verified this wasn't a software issue. What it seems like is probably the bumpy grass caused the USB port to jiggle a little bit and the modem temporarily disconnected. Funnily enough, later in the logs, the USB modem did reconnect later, but alas, we could not regain a signal. If we jump forward in the logs, we see here, right up until 2 a.m., there was just, the modem just could not get a signal. Every time the VPN tried to reconnect, we were just getting these same errors, could not resolve host address. We had no connection at all. Now, you might say, and to be honest, you would be right to say, well, the modem shouldn't be disconnecting from vibration, and it shouldn't. Having a USB modem that weighs probably a good 100 grams hanging off a USB port jiggling around is not ideal. Can we fix it? Yes, sort of. Everything on this robot is a compromise between serviceability and performance in the field. Obviously, you can have, you know, if you have military spec components, you can have a great combination of both. You can have something that is very easy to work on and very reliable. Obviously, I don't have military spec budget or components in this. This is all built with consumer hardware. For example, I could have hard soldered a cable from the Raspberry Pi to the modem, which meant we wouldn't have had that issue last night. However, that would have its own chances of breaking, whether the solder connections broke, something. So I would have to solder the cable very well to ensure that I wasn't creating a whole nother set of problems. On top of that, that would have meant that every time I had to take this robot apart, and I've probably taken it apart 10 to 20 to 30 times down to its component pieces in the last 6 months. Probably 20 times, 10 to 20 times. Having the modem hanging off would have made services take a lot longer. And one of the biggest things about getting the robot out on missions is having it quick to service. And I see a few of you chatting in the chat there. Rally Darkstrike, great to have you back. Vibrations are what temporarily messed it up. They're not the whole cause of the problem here. They're just where the problem began. So yeah, there is a way to... We could hardwire the modem in, but it's a trade-off on serviceability. And now one of the things about vibrations causing the modem to disconnect is that problem is only going to get worse as the USB ports wear out further from more vibrations. So I have a difficult decision to make in that, do I fix it now and just hope I never have to take the robot apart again? Or do I ignore the problem and hope it doesn't go away. I don't really feel comfortable about either one. Hot glue could help a little bit. Gaffer tape, probably not in this case, although it is great. Hot glue could help a little bit. Is the USB port a solder point but not an actual port? No, Rally Darkstrike. On the bottom of the Raspberry Pi, we actually have a hub with 4 standard USB ports on the bottom. And so, while that was great new, it's been in there for 3 years now. So it's getting a little bit tired. So anyway, that's basically where the problem started. A temporary loss of connection to the modem. When the modem came back on, even though it was on for 2 hours, it was unable to find a signal again. This isn't surprising because even before the vibration problem, we were already having low signal issues. And also the shortcut of power to the modem probably left the modem in an inconvenient state. Ideally, we would have done a reset on the modem, but we couldn't get any commands to the robot. To get around this issue, I actually have created a script to periodically, 4 times an hour, check if we have internet, and if not, reset the modem. But we can't do that at the moment. And it all comes back to the same problem I'm having with diagnosing the issues. When we don't have internet, we don't have a reliable time base. So for example, let's say the Raspberry Pi powers up at 2 p.m. It has no signal or initially can't find signal. So I would normally have a script that says, all right, you wake up at 2 p.m., 3 minutes later, check if you've got internet. And then if you don't, just reset the modem and try again. The problem is because it wakes up at 2 p.m., but it doesn't know it's 2 p.m. because it has no onboard clock and it has no internet. So that script will just never trigger. So one of the biggest things for both my sanity in debugging going forward and also so we can implement this effective routine watchdog on the internet that reboots the modem if we have an issue, we need to install a clock on the Raspberry Pi. And we are going to have to hardwire it because... So SOLARBOI, as he stands, he's band-aids upon band-aids upon band-aids on a design that I started back in March. So that is going to have to happen. So just solely from this problem, where we had the robot on for 2 hours with no signal and nothing we could do because we had no signal. The robot needs to know what time it is at all times and periodically do things like check if it has an internet connection, do stuff like that. Now, you might, do other Pi models have built-in RTCs? Absolutely no Raspberry Pi model has an RTC built in. It's annoying, but engineers always make choices for a reason. The Raspberry Pi team did. While it doesn't suit me, it's not an oversight on their part. I think they had very good reasons not to do it. Yeah, I'm going to buy an RTC module this week and put it on the rover. So, now you might hear me saying 2 a.m., 2 a.m., 2 a.m. Why did things stop at 2 a.m.? As you see, these logs are the last ones made by the robot at 2 a.m. or 1:58. The reason for that is after our headaches in the past, I think it was mission 3, we basically had an issue where the robot was on, but it had crashed. The Raspberry Pi had crashed. It was stuck in a loop. I could ping it, but couldn't do anything else, couldn't send any commands. So, after that, I instituted a watchdog timer that basically, after 5 hours, no matter what, the robot's switching off. The Raspberry Pi is switching off. The Arduino will say, you've had your 5 hours or your 5 hours and a bit, you go to bed. Technically, it's not actually exactly 5 hours either. It's the 5th time it hits the 59th minute. So we actually booted up at 9:30, and the 5th time we hit the 59th minute was 1:59, and the Arduino powered the robot off. As it should, and that's great. The problem is, it should have then immediately booted up again at 2 a.m., or 3 a.m., or 8 a.m., or 10 a.m., or 12 p.m. I don't think it did, which bothers me greatly. It could be that there's a bug in my watchdog code that turns off the Raspberry Pi successfully, but stops it from turning back on. It's very hard for me to debug that. I don't know for sure whether it did or did not boot again, because none of the logs after this 2 a.m. moment have any accurate timing on them because we have no friggin' internet, and thus no time. So what I'm actually doing right now, the robot has been on for 4 and a bit hours. It'll tick over at 10:59 and switch off, and then I'll be watching to see if it boots up again in a controlled environment in my house where I have good internet, and that will tell me if my Watchdog code works or if it doesn't. I hope it does, because look, if I have to fix it, I have to fix it. So far, 2 problems we've identified. Well, 3. 1, USB port got a little loose. Not a major problem because seconds later the modem reattached, but still a bit of a problem. So loose USB port. Number 2, lack of RTC meant we haven't got an implemented system to verify on a regular basis if we're still connected to the internet and take evasive action if we don't. And then number 3, what was number 3? Does anyone in the chat remember what number 3 was? Oh, number 3 is the Watchdog may not be working correctly. Okay. Now, the thing is, signal was still bad in that area before we had this issue. Like literally it would have been 2 to 5 minutes before that USB actually cut out. We were already struggling with bandwidth. So I'm not surprised that that we didn't, even if the robot did turn on again on schedule, I'm not surprised it didn't find signal. I have a theory that that's a severe dead zone. I actually plotted out a map, and I can't show you the map, of course, but I plotted out on a map. We should have still technically had line of sight to the tower, the one tower in the area, but we were within a couple of meters either way of there being a giant shed between us and the tower. And one of the other problems as well is SOLARBOI is so low to the ground. Like when you're a human, you're holding your phone 1 meter to 1.5 meters off the ground. That gives you a lot of horizon to play with. It gets you all, there's a lot less bricks and curbs and tree. Every 10 centimeters above the ground, you get in a low signal area when you only have one tower, your signal improves immensely. I actually did some tests out there today. I left my phone on the floor. It got 0.1 megabit download and couldn't even get any upload. Nothing even measurable. I held my phone up, in front of my face. I had 3.6 megabits down and 0.2 megabit up. And now this is something we have to possibly contend with. And there's a lot of things that all come into this at once. So I'm going to do my best to step through it in a logical sequence and talk to you about what's going on. It could be that there simply isn't enough signal in this area. If we can't get, with our current design, if we can't get, 0.2 megabit upload, we can't get video and we can't drive. And we need that, we need that as a bare minimum consistently. Because otherwise, without that, there's nothing we can do. We can't drive without video. Possibly down the road, if we had, for example, when we implement autonomy on SOLARBOI 2, aka a Solar Girl, aka Solar Superbot Meganess. Yeah, if we have autonomy, maybe we could do like a Mars rover thing and hop meter by meter, but that's next year's iteration. For now, we need video. And even after testing today, I'm not necessarily convinced that this mission path actually has signal available. But here's the thing. I'll just read a few of the comments. Yeah, Mission Boobs was a bust. Actually, Tim, that's an amazing pun. I'd like everyone to applaud Tim for that. Mission Boobs was a bust. Really need a wired and wheelbase to allow for longer antenna and better stability. Or an Ethernet tether. Well, an Ethernet tether would be lovely. Although even that, I don't even think you can run Ethernet 3 kilometers. So that would have gotten us into trouble on the mission. So with our current setup, we've quite a few times now run into low signal problems. And the problem is when we get that, there's very little we can do. We can drop our video bitrate, but if we do end up in a hole with no signal, that's it. You're done. That's the end of the mission. So how do we get around that? We've already done one tranche of upgrades since the very first Mission 0, which nobody actually saw. When I implemented these antennas that you see on the bot quite prominently. what do we... Well, the other thing we have, though, the other problem we have, and I am sorry, I'm not speaking in the clearest sentences, but because I was up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m., I've had 3 hours sleep, and I also had to drive several hundred kilometers today to rescue the robot, so I'm a little bit scatterbrained. Another thing holding us back is not just our antennas and our height off the ground, but our modem itself. Our modem does not feature the 700 megahertz band in 4G. The 700 megahertz band is the lowest band out of all the 4G and 3G technologies available, and is probably the one with the, and maybe I'm not correct on this, but I would believe, just by virtue of being the lowest frequency, it probably has the best penetration through obstacles and the best range. We just can't even talk 700 megahertz. Now, yeah, the 320U is as old as balls. So, that's the problem with our modem, the Sierra Aircard 320U. It's an old modem. It doesn't have 700 megahertz 4G band. How do we get around this? Well, my plan... Pell Run, that's not necessarily true because the tower in question, I've checked on the ACMA register, is the tower in question mounts 26 transmitters and receivers. So I think 13 of them are transmitters. And there are transmitters on 2.1, 700, 1.9 gigahertz. So there are different bands. My anime podcast, can a cell phone be strapped to SOLARBOI and tethered to a hotspot? My anime podcast, it can, but that's worse than just using a 4G modem with antennas attached. So we right now have essentially we have a 4G modem on board the robot, and it then has antennas. Now, we do have not a great modem. We have a pretty crap modem, in fact. Although it was free, and it was better than what I was using before. But the problem is it is limited to only certain bands, and unfortunately doesn't have 700 megahertz. So yeah, basically, like a cell phone would be the same thing, although the one benefit a cell phone would have if we did strap it on and tether it would be that it probably would have 700 megahertz bands. So you're actually not far off the mark there. But that is a bit of a messy solution. Instead, what we're going to look at doing, people have been really generous with donations, and that's given me a bit of a plan that I think we can work. It's going to take some engineering. By the way, we'll get into the engineering in a sec. I'll just spend a couple of minutes here having reminisce about the end of Mission Boobs, as it has now become known. So here's SOLARBOI where I found him. Gracefully just parked there, doing absolutely nothing, refusing to talk to the tower. And what actually happened is I got this message this morning on Facebook, which was absolutely charming, although I was worried because I don't know these people from a bar of soap. So I got this message from a woman in the area that her workmate found SOLARBOI outside her house this morning. Now, the thing about SOLARBOI is SOLARBOI has very limited markings. It has a sign on top that says research vehicle do not touch. But there's, other than a little scroll on the speaker that you really wouldn't even notice unless you know it's there, nothing on it actually says SOLARBOI unless you flip it upside down. So I don't know how, within a couple hours of waking up, they figured out what SOLARBOI was. I tried to ring them, and I communicated them throughout the day. I did give them a call. Unfortunately, they were out of the house. And they actually offered to help free SOLARBOI. And they didn't mind him hanging out in the area. But, unfortunately, despite their offer of help, it wouldn't have helped because we still had these 4G issues. I could have got them to move SOLARBOI down the road, but unfortunately, they only got in touch with... I only heard back from them after I'd picked it up. And on top of that, I wasn't necessarily aware that SOLARBOI was working. For all I knew, SOLARBOI had bigger problems. So it would have been a bit much if I, asked these people that I don't even know, hey, yeah, please move SOLARBOI 300 meters down the road, and then, oh, it didn't work, I better go back. No, I don't believe, Bionic Brain, I don't believe it does have SOLARBOI written on it, except maybe under the solar panel. But it looked like SOLARBOI hadn't been touched, so I don't know if maybe they read it off the speaker or what, but to be honest, I probably should write SOLARBOI on it somewhere. Yeah, the front in Sharpie, it's written on the speaker, but with the current way the speaker's set up, you can't really see it. By the way, thank you. I do enjoy my MX-5. But let's, so this, they did not murder SOLARBOI or damage him in any way. They left him be, and I very much appreciate them for doing that. Tim, I will probably send them a card or something. Okay. So the problem is we don't have good signal. How do we improve signal? Well, I don't really want to change the AirCard 320U setup. It fits really nicely in the box, and I do only have limited funds to spend. But one of the biggest things that I am sort of getting a bit stressed about is relying on a single telco. So I'm thinking we're gonna do, and I'm hoping I can do this fairly swiftly, a dual modem setup. I've got help of Brett on the SOLARBOI crew, who's got a bit of experience in this area, in doing dual modem setups that are effective for, you know, kind of high uptime communications. So the idea is we will install, we'll skip through. Okay, this is a picture of, this is a really great picture of a Telstra modem that we want to install with external antenna jacks. We then need a couple of these pigtails, and then we'll get a couple of these big 5 dBi or 7 dBi antennas. Now, the 7 dBi model is 435 millimeters long, which will get our antenna some height. It will compromise stealth a bit, but it'll get our antenna some height. And it has this heavy magnetic base on it. I don't like that base, but I might put it on the front bumper, a pair of them on the front bumper, to help weigh down the front of the robot anyway and improve our steering. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Bionic Brain. He is getting bigger and more visible. This won't increase his footprint much. What I am worried about, though, is the extra antennas add weight, which is not great for handling and efficiency. And the other problem is as well, 2 modems, that means when we boot up, instead of drawing probably 500 milliamps, we're probably drawing 800 to 900 milliamps, which means every power up is using more power, which causes us some issues. Camo paint. Yeah, I did give SOLARBOI a lick of drab green initially. Obviously, the cables still stick out a bit. But the problem is, to be honest, I probably could redo the camo paint a bit better. It certainly would help. The biggest thing, though, is relying on the kindness of strangers and finding good places to park. And if we hadn't lost signal, we would have gotten a great place to park. I had a great place picked out another 600 meters down the road. So, yeah. So, basically, now these antennas don't come cheap. They're $50 each, and I do want 2 of them. And then the modem's going to be $50. I could also buy a second Optus modem that has more bands available, but then that would be another $50. And we do want to save a bit of the budget for Solar Girl or SOLARBOI 2. So I don't want to throw everything at SOLARBOI 1. I kind of want to save a bit of that money for the hefty parts. Let's have a look here. I did think about putting some leaves on to further camouflage him, but I think you still would have spotted him. I'm looking over my shoulder now. You still would have spotted him where we got stuck today. Pink fluffy dice probably not there. I'll just try. Maybe our new friends could allow a secure parking spot. Yeah. Now this is something I've thought about and ummed and ahed over as to whether we do the same mission again or whether we go somewhere else. Buddies is good. Buddies is good. I mean, we know that if we stop at that house in future, we don't have to stress about getting in trouble. Well, we don't know for sure. I mean, while they were happy for him to sit outside their house, asking if we can park in their driveway may be a bit much. I may give them another ring to say thank you in future. They certainly do seem friendly, but we, of course, don't want to overstay our welcome. Obviously, my anime podcast, if we do put a taxidermied rabbit on top, it might scare people away from interfering with the robot. So, good idea there. So regardless, I think people still want to see that phone box, but I am worried, like, if anyone saw those Facebook posts, it may have compromised the... Anyone that saw those Facebook posts could have figured out in 5 minutes where the robot was, and that bothers me. I am worried that by running the same route 8 times, and by having those posts come out and a few other people talking here, there, and wherever, that it's becoming pretty obvious to a few people that are looking where the robot is. I'd love to know the opinion of chat as to whether we want to try a new mission, you know, a different part of the world, or do we want to go back and still try and hit that phone box come what may. Madigan's is a fan of the new mission. I'm sort of a fan of the new mission. I love the idea of hanging out with our friends, but I am sort of, I'm not going to lie, I've driven that same friggin' path 8 times, and it's I'm getting a bit complacent. I'm getting a bit bored of it, to be honest. I do kind of want to go somewhere else. I'm aiming, that is true, Madigans, we can always go back. Certainly, you know, it could, even if SOLARBOI 1 does eventually perish, SOLARBOI 2 could always go back. Certainly, yeah, definitely open to the idea of doing a new mission. Now, with the upgrades, it's kind of a good and bad time to be working on SOLARBOI again. I do want to get him back out as quickly as possible. I want to pencil in next Tuesday for our next mission. The problem is I have a housing inspection. I have a big pile of articles to write before the end of the month. And then in between all that, I have to clean my house and also find time. It might sound easy, like, oh yeah, just plug in a USB and zip tie the antennas on. But these things always take 10 times longer than you think they do. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Ultra Shiban. Maybe a random new starting spot. I'm thinking maybe somewhere that's not 200 kilometers away as well. Maybe somewhere like... So like, maybe the edge of suburbia and start from there, just because it's incredibly stressful and time consuming. Like, I've had almost no sleep today, and then I had to drive hundreds of kilometers. I got nothing else done today, except for laying in bed, worrying about robots, and then driving all over town. It would save us some money and time as well, and it would mean we'd have more money to invest in a better robot and more time to invest in a better robot rather than spending time and money driving hundreds of miles away. Test missions for troubleshooting. That's a really great question there, my anime podcast. I've done some stuff in my backyard. I've also once done a little test around the suburb, and that is really good. One of the problems with test missions is the hardest thing to test for, and if anyone with experience in 4G knows anything about this, rattle it off in the comments. The hardest thing to test for is low signal. There's nowhere around here with bad mobile phone signal around my home. It's possible we could drive out to the mission area and have a walker go with him, but finding someone willing to spend hours and hours with the robot in a low signal area, someone that can walk 3 kilometers and then walk 3 kilometers back, you know, that's... You know, I don't have a lot of friends with 6 hours to spare to just, well, probably even more than that. By the time they drive out and back and do the whole mission, that's like probably a 12-hour day. And I probably need 2 of them, one to actually go with the robot and one to stay with the car to pick them up. So yeah, anyone that has any idea of how to test for low signal without actually going out into the countryside, I'd love to hear it. Throw it down in the discussion in the Discord. Regardless, we're going to pencil in Tuesday next week for our next mission. I will work my hardest to get the new modem in, to get the new antennas in. Your donations have made it possible. Without the donations, we'd probably just be calling it quits and saying, look, we're going to have to invest in SOLARBOI 2. But you've all been so generous supporting the robot that I think I've got the funds that we can get SOLARBOI back out there, because bushfire season is mercifully coming very late. It's still raining up there where we're operating, and so when we're able to keep going, I honestly thought October we'd be out. A second robot would be good. That would take me. I mean, it's going to take me all summer, and it may take 3 to 6 months to build SOLARBOI 2. A second robot is not something I can just make overnight unless this became my full-time job. And I think we're a little ways away from that just yet. Can you send AT commands to the modem to get any telemetry from it? Tim, yes, I've actually done that before. I could maybe create a Python app. I could probably create some kind of app that just like logs the modem telemetry like once every like 15 minutes. Saves it somewhere on the robot. It's a little bit difficult. Sending more telemetry back than we're already getting is a hassle. And one of the problems is we are a very small team here. I'm lucky to have the assistance of a few people on an ad hoc basis that have lent their skills. Derwent has helped out with coding. Brett and Tully and Chris have helped out as well with various jobs, this, that, and the other. And everyone in the Discord who helps out with tips and information. But the problem is, I do unfortunately have a job. I have one that's very flexible and that I don't have to work too many hours. But this month I probably took 2 full weeks off to pursue SOLARBOI work. Our engineering time is so limited. So while we can get modem telemetry, it's probably not something that's going to be too helpful. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with the modem. I think we're just really pushing the limits of the signals available to us out there. So if anyone has any other questions, I'll give chat a second. But really, it is going to be a big week of engineering. It may be that there are updates during the week, and I say, look, Tuesday is not going to be viable. I need more time to find a place because realistically, I'm probably going to spend all weekend engineering the robot. I'm probably not going to have any time to actually go out and reconnaissance a possible mission area. So it may be that Tuesday is an update rather than a mission. You'll hear about it first on Discord, Twitter, and Facebook as always. I think that's been a good news stream. I think you all know the plan, which is rebuild the robot with a second modem, with more antennas. Hopefully they don't all interfere with each other. Improve the robustness of our watchdog code. Install an RTC. Yeah, I don't think we're making Tuesday. Now that I think all this through in my head, I think I'd have a mental breakdown. I need to eat and not get fired from my job. But I honestly do not underestimate how hard I am working to make this a reality. Part of me, I think, is always rushing this because I love doing the missions with you all so much. You know, on days like today, I do get a little bit burnt out just from the lack of sleep. It may not be a mission next Tuesday. It may just be an update. But you will learn from me what has happened, how we've gone with the dual modem upgrade next Tuesday. If you want to learn more in the interim, jump on the Discord. Just type in !Discord in the chat to learn about that. It's going to be a big week of engineering. We're probably going to find a new mission. Wish us luck. I want to thank you all very much for tuning in tonight. I apologize from the depths of my heart. I want to bring you the best possible robot missions I can. Me and SOLARBOI are working hard to do that. And the journey is not yet over. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Till next time, TK out.